Okay guys, so now we're on to day 2 of our Park Sling sew along, and what we're going to be doing today is making your inside pockets, the mesh if you're doing the mesh, and the slip pocket. So if you're like me, I like to divide all my stuff up. So today what you'll need is 2 of your linings. It like mine, it don't particularly matter which one they are, but just know that one will be for the back, and then this is for the inside of your smaller pocket of your front pocket. So this is like it goes on the back piece. So if you care about how you're doing it, just make sure that you know. Again, I'm only gonna put a zipper pocket on one of mine, but you're more than welcome to do it on both. So either way you want to start. So you'll need those 2 things. You'll need your pocket pieces. Again, like I said, I sewed mine together to make it one whole pocket piece. I want to say for the small, I have it right here. Zipper pocket is 7 3/4 by 14, and the large is 10 by 14. And you would need 2 if you're doing both, or you only need 1. Again, if you have a directional print like I did, I went ahead and cut 2 pieces and then I just sewed them together. You're not going to see it. This is like the top part of something you don't even see. So there's that. You'll need that. You'll need your slip pocket, which is like this. And funny enough, on my last one that I did, I actually made the pocket this way. So that is also, if you want to make them that way, just make sure you cut it the right way. But the pattern does call for it to be like this. So basically your foam kind of fits into it. And then your binding, your mesh, and your zipper. Zipper. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is, let me look, I have a page because it has measurements and I don't always remember them off the top of my head. So if you have one like this, make sure that you know which way is up. Like this is up because it's going to flip down like this. It makes a difference on where you measure stuff. So I have this like that, and then this calls for you to measure 7.5 inches down your pieces. So let me do 5 and 6, 7.5. Well, funny enough, pretty sure my middle piece is gonna fall into right there. So guess together we'll find out if this actually works. In theory, I've actually never done it. Usually my pockets are just plain and I would just do it on the fold. So we'll see how this works, because it pretty much falls like right in my little area where it's gonna flip down. So we'll see. Anyway, 5, 6, 7, and then half. There we go. And you're just gonna so I use this washable Mark Be Gone or Disappearing Ink ones. I have one on both sides. You can also use a pencil, or you don't really see this and you're gonna sew over it anyway, so you could also just use a pen or a marker. But you're gonna draw a line completely across, and then from there you're going to measure another line and 1/2 inch below that one. And then after that you're going to draw a line that is 1 inch in from your outside. Again, guys, if this doesn't work, it's cool. I'll just make a new one and then I'll start my video over again and you will never know. Anyway, and then an inch in from your other side. Those are slightly crooked. Sorry, I'm a little weird about like my lines being pretty straight, but I mean, it honestly is not a huge deal if they're not, because you're gonna sew over them. So, yeah, that's better. And you're not gonna see them, so if you need to like measure them, so let me see if y'all can see this. So you see where I drew a line here, and then that's my inch in, and then right there is the other side. So now what you're going to do, now that you've made a little T, is you're going to now take one of your plain pieces like this, so for the small one, you're going to place it, oops, like so, and then it's going to be 2 inches for your small up from the bottom of your lining. There we go. Or I think what it says for the large, or 5 inches up for your large, okay? And then these are faced right sides together in the thing. And then what you're going to do, oops, where are my little, oh, actually, I have it in my little thing right there. So you don't necessarily have to pin it. I pin it just so it kind of stays in place when I'm moving it, and so that y'all kind of can see what I'm doing. Okay. So now you should have it like this. Do try to make sure that it's pretty, in the middle of your stuff. And you're going to take it to your sewing machine, and then you're going to sew where you made this box, okay? Don't worry about this over here or that over there, just where you made the little T. So you come down, across, back up, and then back over. And then making sure that you back stitch when you start and when you stop, okay? So go ahead and take that to your sewing machine and do that now, and come on back. Okay, so now you should have it like this, right? So it's all sewed down. You can see on the back. Oops, I had some threads on here. Kind of makes like this square. You see it, right? So what you're going to do now, you don't necessarily have to use your ruler to do this. I just do. You're just going to measure 1/4 inch down from your top line, okay? And I just draw a line, and then you're going to make little corners. Again, you can measure that out. I just kind of guesstimate based off my 1/4 line. Then you can take you can do this with scissors, or I like to start my line with my rotary cutter, and you're just going to slice right down the middle. Don't go all the way to the ends. Stop where you made those little V's, okay? And then I take my scissors and I cut the rest of the way. What you want to do is try to get as close to the corner without cutting through your threads. You want to get as close as you can. Oops, or like me, you cut through it. But that is actually a really easy fix, and I'll go fix it in just a second. So don't be like me and cut through your threads. I actually should have grabbed my other scissors that I can see a little better with. Okay, so again, don't be like me. Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh no, it's on the side. And you can see how I accidentally cut through it a little bit. If you do something like that, just take it back to your sewing machine and sew another line of stitches, okay? If, like me, you did it in the middle, like this, we're actually going to find out if it'll work. Right? Well, let me go fix it. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, so I fixed it. Like I said, see the fix? I mean, it doesn't look the prettiest, but you're not going to see this anyway. So now what you're going to do is you're going to flip this through that hole you created. Like so. Pull it all the way out the other side. Finger press on the back side as well as you can. You also can go iron it down as well if you so desire. Okay, and then I like to flip it on the other side to see how my squares came out. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Learn something new every time. Now I know that I can definitely sew right down that middle of where I attached these together. This one's a little bulky, so just push that a little bit more. There we go. Again, you can just press this with your finger or you can take it to the iron. It doesn't particularly matter. And everyone has like their, everyone has their things that they hate. This is my least favorite part of making bags is the welt pockets. I like when they go straight across, but they do look cool once they're all done. So hopefully you can see. Mine's a little, I need to go press it. But now you can see it, right? And you now have a square in the middle, or a rectangle, I guess, in the middle of your thing. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take your zipper. This is where people like to use Wonder Tape or glue, or I sometimes will use a little bit of basting spray or double-sided tape, or sometimes I just wing it. Actually, I won't lie, a lot of times I just kind of wing it. But you're going to put your zipper right here on the back side, so where your pocket pieces is, right? And you're going to, and so that's when sometimes it's nice to have this really long zipper. This is actually really long for what I actually need it for. But this way you're not worried about it not being long enough or catching it on the sides. And then you can just kind of pin it down slightly in place. I manipulate it like as I sew. I make sure I pull everything the way it's supposed to be. But again, a lot of people, especially a lot of bag bakers I know, like to use Wonder Tape or stuff like that. Wonder Tape and me just never have gotten along. Like, I've tried it and I always mess it up and it just pisses me off, and then it takes me longer. So you just want it slightly, so I know kind of where it is in place here. And then I usually will just move it around to make sure that I get it to where I want it to be. So basically you want your zipper part in between. There we go. Your welt that you made, okay? Lining it up and making sure that it's perfect and etc. does take a little bit sometimes, but the end result does look really cool. And it's nice to have that little extra pocket inside your bag. So I'm just going to kind of give you what it's supposed to look like. So here you are. Oops, you can't really see it. But anyway, just make sure that your zipper is in the middle, okay? And now what you're going to do, and when you sew, make sure you pull the pocket a little tight, right? Because it should line up like this. Like this is the edge that you're now sewing to your zipper. Oops. Let me flip that a little more. Sewing to your zipper, like up on the top. So you're going to take this to your sewing machine, and you're going to sew down your zipper to this. When you do this, be sure, it doesn't matter which side you start on, but do make sure that this guy, your little zipper, is actually inside of your little square. So one side of this obviously is going to have it to where this one, like the other side's a little tricky, and what you can do is take this to your sewing machine and run a basting stitch over right here so that they'll stay together a little better. But just make sure that your guy, whichever way it goes, is inside. If it is not inside, you will be seam ripping, because obviously you can't zip stuff without a zipper. So just be sure to do that. Again, you can use basting spray. However you want to keep the zipper in place is totally up to you. It's all personal preference. Like I said, I use a little bit of quilting basting spray sometimes, but really I just kind of get one side right, and then I do the next side. So again, it's just really personal preference. So go ahead and go sew your zipper down to your welt pocket now, okay? And come on back. Right, so now you have this welt pocket for your bag. And again, like I said, you have to have one for the back, but you don't necessarily have to have one in the front. So you just got to make at least one of these, okay? And then you'll see that, like, you know, my zipper is a little longer, so I will just cut it down. I like to leave mine a little long just so they don't pull out. And sometimes you can just catch them in your seam when you sew the back sides together. Okay, but just go ahead and cut it down so it's all matched up. And then your next step is, so whenever I cut my pocket, probably just because I was doing it, my bottom part is a little long, so I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. Like, see how on the back side? This is what I was talking about. So now your pocket is going to fold down like this to create your pocket piece, okay? And this is a little long, and it's probably just because when I was cutting it, I wasn't super accurate because I was going to sew them together, so I gave it a little seam allowance. I just made sure that it was the right size. But all you gotta do is trim it up so that your pockets are the same length. Boom. So now your pockets are the same length, and you're going to sew starting from the very top. And this is what I was talking about. You can definitely catch your zipper in the seam allowance if you want. It just keeps it, if it frays or it does anything, it's less likely to pull. And then you're just going to sew all the way down this side right here. Then you're only going to go about an inch or so in. Then you're going to leave a big gap if this is your back one, okay? This is your main lining piece. And then you're going to leave a big gap, and then you're going to sew about an inch, and then you're going to sew back up this side, basically closing your pocket. And then that's it for this. So go ahead and go do that now and come on back. Okay, so now my pocket is all sewed together. You can trim the little corners a little bit just so it is not in your seam allowance when you sew the bag, but it pretty much goes, it spans the whole width of your bag going on. So Just make sure. And then here you go. Nice and pretty, right? So you can put that to the side for right now. What we're going to work on next is our this one's a little big too. So, oh, that's just mine. Okay. I'm sometimes a very sloppy cutter. I will not even lie to y'all. But I usually will trim stuff up after the fact. Just to make sure that everything kind of matches up to each other. There we go. Okay. So this is your slip pocket. What you're going to do is you're going to place right sides together. And you easy peasy, 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. You are just going to sew around this complete square. Okay? But what you're going to do is you're going to leave a gap. Maybe like about this big. I'm notorious for trying to pull my stuff through the smallest gap that I could possibly make in the world. But, you know, just a little gap to be able to pull this through, so then it'll be right side out. So then you can start here, come out, go down, pivot, 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 and then pivot. And you only need it in, you know, just a little bit to make that corner, and then come on back. Okay. So now you see it is all sewed, and then you're just going to trim the seam allowance down to about 1/8 or so. Just be careful and don't cut your stitches when you're getting that close, especially since I like to live dangerously and use my rotary cutter to cut my seam allowance versus my scissors. Like literally someone told me that they thought that was crazy that I did that once, and I was like, I didn't know that it was wrong. So there's that. And then just kind of, or I mean, I also have pinking shears, so you definitely could use pinking shears on this. And then you're just going to kind of cut the corner, so as close as you can. I'm going to sharpen my scissors soon. And then I like to put little nicks close to where the corners are, just so that they kind of will pivot out just a little better. And you can use all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty sure I use a chopstick to push them. I'm pretty sure my chopstick is over here. But, you know, whatever works for you to get it out, just go ahead and do that. And then, once you do that, but make sure when you cut the seam allowance that you didn't cut where you're going to turn this, okay? Because you need that to seal your hole. Then just go ahead and pull your piece through here like so. So you're flipping it so it's right side out. Pull it out as much as possible. And then, like I said, this is when you're just like, I can't really get my hand all the way down in there. I mean, I can, but it doesn't push out the corner very well. And make sure you get all 4 corners when you're doing this. So I push it out as much as I can with my finger, and then I will get my choppy stick. I know that there are turning tools too, but my daughter loves Chinese food, so I like always have chopsticks wherever I go. There is always char. I lied to you. I guess it is not over here. She probably took it because that's what she does. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. So really you can use anything. This is a screwdriver that does not have a pointy end. So I can just use it to push a little bit. To push those corners out. This is like an Allen wrench screwdriver. Which actually is working pretty good. Since I did not come prepared. Well, I honestly, my chopstick was over here last night when I cleaned everything up. So, it just means she came in here at some time and took it. And then you can take it to and iron it if you want to make it a little more flat. And then honestly, it doesn't matter which side you use. You can either use the side you interface or you can use the other side. I think I'm going to use my other side actually, because it has like a perfect placement of the Evo Queen. So now what you're going to do is you're going to close this up where your hole was, see? And so you're going to flip these things where they meet up. That's why you didn't want to cut your seam allowance off right there. And what you're going to do is you're going to top stitch this all the way across. And so that's why this is important that your hole is at the top. Because whenever you sew this down, you're going to sew down here, and then down, and then back up. So it's just easier because you're going to top stitch right here because you won't sew this part down when you sew it to your lining. So go ahead and go top stitch that right now and come back. So here you go. Here is my thing all top stitched over, so the hole is now closed. So you're gonna put this to the side because we're pretty much prepping everything right now. Put that to the side for right now, and then grab your mesh if you're doing mesh and your binding. So you are going to basically right side to wrong side. So I mean the net doesn't particularly, there's not really a wrong side, but you're going to put the right side against the net, okay? Then you're going to stitch a line 1/4 inch down right here, attaching both of these together. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I know a lot of people will usually do this before, but so you know where your stuff is. You definitely can fold this in half. Find where the halfway mark is, and then you fold this down. Again, I like just to guesstimate things, so I typically will do it after, and I'll take it over to my thing, and I'll basically just fold this up, and then I'll make a fold with my iron, so you can see the little crease right here. And so all you're going to do is push where you sewed it up, and then you're going to flip it, because this wants it not to be right against it like a lot of other binding, and then you're going to flip it down. That's why I kind of like don't like to measure beforehand, because it's not really the halfway mark. And then oops, here's my clips. You're just kind of going to make sure that the front side, so here's one side, which I realized I put this on upside down, so I'll probably just use this other side as my front side. And then you have here, so where that they're even, so you don't see the binding on the other side. So you just kind of do that for the whole thing. Again, this is not like, you know, the most perfect way to do it. Everyone has different binding techniques, but this doesn't really have to be super amazing, for the simple fact that it's just going onto, it's just so that your mesh has a little bit of binding to it, so it doesn't tear or rip. So, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to edge stitch as close as you can to this edge, and make sure you catch the other side when you do this, all the way down to finish your binding. So go ahead and do that and come on back. So here you go. Now it's all pretty on either side. So again, like I said, this technically was where I bind it down, but as you can tell, you can't really tell the difference. So I'm just gonna flip mine around and use this side. So now what you're going to do, if you had a little overlap like I did, just go ahead and trim that up so that it's even with your mesh, okay? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your pocket. Well, again, this is personal preference. I put my mesh in the main compartment. So in the instructions say to also do it to the back one, but if you want it on the front one, by all means, you're more than welcome to do that. So here you go. All you're gonna do is make sure when you do this, right, just go ahead and do it now so you don't forget. Pin your pocket out of the way, okay? And this will go for both. If you did a front pocket and the main compartment pocket, make sure that you pin your pockets just out of the way, okay? Then all you're going to do is take your mesh and you're going to match it up with the bottom. So the bottom of your mesh should match the bottom of your panel or your main lining. And then you're just going to kind of clip it in place or pin it, whichever way you do. And you will have overlap on the bottom. I'll show you in just a second whenever I get done clipping. You're going to have, well, hopefully y'all can see this because it's black, extra right here, and that is fine. You're going to cut it off in a little bit. So all you're going to do is base stitch around here all the way around. You can either leave this in the big compartment like it is, and do try to make sure that, you know, they're kind of even across. So you just kind of have to look at it, and again, I eyeball stuff. Like after I've already all done, I realized that my zipper is a little bit off, but it's for me, and so I don't really mind. Just try to make sure, you know, this is kind of even across here. You can even like fold it in half to make sure that it matches, which mine does now, which is good. Yep, actually, it needs to come up just a tad. You know, but if you want, you can either leave it one big compartment, like so, or you can stitch down here. I think the instructions might actually tell you exactly how to place it on here, but I like to have it as much as I can, and it's not interfering with my pocket here. So you can just fold this in half so you know where the halfway line is. You can just give it like a little finger press. I think I'm gonna sew it down the middle this time, so you kind of can see where the middle, hopefully y'all can see that line. You can see where I pressed it a little bit right here, so you can see where you would stitch it. So you're just going to base stitch it all the way around and then stitch it right down the middle if you want two compartments, or you can just base stitch it around and leave it as one big compartment. So it's really up to you. So go ahead and take care of that now and come on. Well, actually, I'll tell you how to do both since we're going to do two at a time. So you have this, right? You're going to do that. Then what you're going to do, well, actually you have to look and see where it says to put that. Right, so now you have your other main panel thing. I just like to do things in sets. So you have another main panel piece. You're just gonna fold it in half, and again, you can iron it if you so desire, but then you kind of have to iron that line back out. So you just kind of finger press it with your finger so you can tell where the middle is. Okay, so you see, I don't know, well, you can see it better on the back side, so you can see where I finger pressed it, and you can see it, it's just really dark on the front. Oh, there you go, on the front side. And then you're going to do the same thing with your slip pocket. Again, where you place these things is totally up to you, and you know, if you use both zippers or whatever. So now that is pressed in half too, And then you're going to measure 1 inch up from the bottom if it is a small panel or small bag. And is it, what's it say? 3 inches higher for the big one. I think mainly they tell you how to do this because the zipper is usually right here. So again, if you don't have a zipper, I'm actually going to move mine up just a tad because I prefer it to be a little higher up my bag. So right now I think mine's sitting at 2 inches from the bottom. So again, it is all personal preference on where. Just make sure that you're not covering, if you have a zipper, that you don't get it too close to that. And again, you push your pocket piece out of the way so you don't sew it down to your other stuff. This one obviously is easier to use pins than clips. And then you can flip it back around, look at placement, make sure that, you know, you're trying to make it straight. Like mine, I should have looked at it from this way. Just trying to make sure that it's pretty straight. It's funny, when it's for me, I kind of just wing it, and then when it's for other people, I take forever for placement, and so. And they both always turn out really good. I just always take way more time on other people's stuff than my own. But so now you can see how it's lined up and it's placed right here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start right here on this corner and sew down as close to the edge as you can. Pivot here and then pivot back up, making sure you back stitch at this top part and you back stitch right here, because that's what's going to hold your pocket in place. So if you don't back stitch right there and you pull on this a lot, eventually your stitches are going to come out. So make sure you back stitch. So now that you have this ready, go ahead and sew this one down, and then again make sure you sew around here basting, and then if you want it down the middle, just sew one straight line down the middle. Again, back stitching at the top, and give it a little. This will get sewed into your seam allowance, but I like to give it a little more enforcement and back stitch down here too. Okay, so go ahead and do that and come on back. Okay, so now you have this, and like I said, go ahead and trim it up so everything matches around the curve. Just making sure you don't cut too far in and cut your stitches. And then you can unpin your pocket now so it lays flat. And now look, I have one little pocket here and one little pocket here. And then obviously I have my zipper pocket. And then I have my slip pocket on this one. And then that, my friends, is all for day 2. So tomorrow we will assemble the front of the bag, which usually is the most difficult part. We'll be attaching both the zippers and etc. So come on back. Happy sewing, guys.